What would you do if the person you loved looked you straight in the eye and told you her ex would be moving in with you? Not for a night, not as a quick favor, but for weeks. Would you explode in anger? Would you beg her to reconsider? Or would you smile, say, make him comfortable, and secretly plan the sweetest revenge she never saw coming? If you've ever been disrespected by someone who thought you'd just take it, hit that like button and subscribe if you love seeing karma play out in real time, because this story is about betrayal, power, and walking away with every ounce of dignity intact. I thought I was in love. You know that kind of love where you actually picture the future? Where you see the house, the kids, the whole life together. That was me with Samantha. We'd been together almost 2 years, and we were already living together in an apartment we both paid for. At the start, she was everything. Sweet, funny, the kind of girl who made even boring errands feel like adventures. I trusted her completely. I gave her loyalty, patience, all of me. Maybe too much of me. But here's the thing. When you live with someone, you can't ignore the cracks forever. I noticed the way her phone flipped face down every time I walked into the room. I noticed the nights she suddenly had plans with friends I'd never once been introduced to. And whenever I asked simple questions, like who she was with or when she'd be home, her responses were sharp, defensive, like I'd committed some crime just by caring. My gut was screaming at me. But love? Love has a way of muffling alarms. One night I came home from work, exhausted, ready to collapse. I kicked off my shoes, threw my bag on the chair, and all I wanted was to relax. Samantha was sitting on the couch, scrolling her phone, lips pressed tight like she was rehearsing something in her head. I didn't even sit down before she looked at me and said, "So, don't freak out, okay? My ex needs a place to stay for a few weeks. He's going through stuff. I told him he could stay here." I laughed, because it sounded like the dumbest joke in the world. Only, the laugh died in my throat when I realized she wasn't joking. I blinked at her. "Wait, you're serious? You want your ex-boyfriend to move in here? With us?" She didn't flinch. She didn't apologize. She just narrowed her eyes and said, "Yes. And don't make a big deal out of it. It's only for a few weeks. Deal with it." Deal with it. 3 words that cut deeper than a knife. Not, "Let's talk about this." Not, "I know this is hard for you." Just a cold command. Deal with it. Let me tell you about this ex of hers, Mark. He wasn't some innocent guy down on his luck. He was the same guy she had once cried over for weeks, the same guy who cheated on her, who broke her down, the guy she swore she hated. And now she wanted him in our home, our living room, our kitchen, the space I paid half the rent for. In that moment, the truth hit me like a sledgehammer. I wasn't her partner. I was her backup plan, the safe, reliable option while she toyed with nostalgia. My chest burned with humiliation. But here's where it got interesting. Instead of exploding, instead of begging her to rethink, I smiled. My stomach churned, my pulse pounded in my ears, but I forced a calm smile. "Sure," I said quietly. "Make him comfortable." And Samantha smiled back, smug and satisfied, as if she'd just won some invisible battle. That night I lay awake in bed while she texted happily beside me. My whole body burned with rage and shame. My mind replayed every warning sign I'd ignored, every time I'd been too patient, too forgiving. But beneath all the anger, something else was growing. A plan. If she wanted him here, she could have him, but not me. The next morning, while she was at brunch with one of her so-called friends, I made my move. I rented a storage unit across town. I started packing. Every piece of clothing, my electronics, my books, the cookware I had bought. Every single trace of me disappeared from that apartment in silence. I left her things, her sofa, her candles, her decor. But everything that was mine, gone. And I wasn't finished. I went to the landlord. Because here's the detail Samantha forgot. My name was on that lease too. And without both tenants, the contract could be voided. So I ended it. Legally. Cleanly. The landlord gave notice. The place had to be vacated in 30 days. My revenge was set in motion. 2 days later, Samantha came home with Mark in tow. I wasn't there to see it, but I can picture it perfectly. The door creaking open, her eyes widening at the sight of half-empty rooms. My TV? Gone. My game console? Gone. Even the bed frame? Mine. All that remained was the mattress sitting flat on the floor like a cheap crash pad, and then the cherry on top. She checked the mail. A letter from the landlord. Lease terminated. They had 30 days to get out. Not only was she stuck explaining to Mark why their cozy little arrangement had collapsed before it even started, she also had to face the landlord and justify why she had invited a non-tenant to move in without permission. Meanwhile, I was settled into a temporary apartment, eating takeout, sleeping soundly for the first time in months, and smiling every time I thought about the mess I'd left behind. The texts started almost immediately. At first, they were furious. "How could you do this to me? You're being childish." Then they shifted. "Please, can we talk? This is too much. We can work it out." But I didn't respond, because this wasn't about getting her back or making her understand. This was about reclaiming my dignity, about showing her that when she told me to deal with it, I did, just not in the way she expected. Word through mutual friends eventually reached me. Mark didn't stick around. As soon as he realized the lease was gone and the situation wasn't what Samantha had promised, he bailed, left her to fend for herself. And Samantha? She had to crawl back to her parents' place, tail between her legs, forced to explain why she'd lost her apartment and her relationship all in one move. And me? I was free. Free from the games, free from the disrespect, free from the cycle of humiliation. For the first time in months, I slept like a baby. And you know what? I didn't feel guilty. Not for a second. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't screaming or fighting or begging someone to understand how badly they hurt you. Sometimes the sweetest revenge is walking away silently, letting them choke on the mess they created, while you move forward lighter, stronger, and untouchable. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, what's the most disrespectful thing someone ever expected you to just deal with? And of course, subscribe for more. True stories where justice isn't just served, it's served cold.